Let me tell you, the past few weeks have been fun. The unboxing, how to play guide, and playthroughs of the game were fun to do, but I guess you guys were expecting our review of the board game, so today that's going to be our focus. A lot of people are starting to pre-order or waiting for their Kickstarter pledges, so hopefully this review will give you enough info to keep you in the hype or make you decide if that's the game for you. On this video, we will review the board game, talk about the tarnished classes, combat, exploration, miniatures and progression, and the 3 things we liked and disliked about it, so get ready. But before I start, I would like to give very special thanks to Steamforged Games for sending us this copy of the set. We really appreciate it. Hi, I'm Nick and we are Tabletop Duo. Grab your favorite drink and let's start the review with a quick overview of the gameplay. In Elden Ring, the board game, players are engaged in campaigns made of a bunch of scenarios that go from narrative to exploration of the world, dungeons and combat. At the start of the game, the first missions, used as a tutorial, are linear, but right after that the system opens and you get to always choose between 2 or 3 scenarios and decide which one to go next. Each scenario has quests that go around the events of a particular area in the game, with the Peninsula covering everything in this area of the video game, like Irina's questline, the Misbegotten attacking garrisons, and Castle Morn. There are 6 scenario types in the game. Narrative scenarios work like those choose your own adventure books, where players read the narrative, choosing where to go next. Sometimes you must pass attribute tests, and your choices can impact your progression by giving some cards, treasures and more. The second scenario type is the exploration one. This is the one you will see the most in playthroughs, where players explore the lands between. The scenario goal is to complete Guidance of Grace objectives that vary from finding a place, fighting enemies, collecting resources and more. Each player has 3 actions they can do, like placing new tiles to explore, moving and interacting with locations. Some of those locations reward players with materials, which can be crafted into consumables, some provide new personal quests, other lets players interact with NPCs, and some trigger an encounter with enemies. And the most fun part about the exploration is that players can explore as they like. So if one player wants to go fight on an encounter while another one wants to gather materials, they can. By the way, I've done a playthrough, the first ever in our channel, of one of the exploration scenarios, so go to the video's description or click on the link above if you want to check it out. Talking about encounters, this is where the tarnished characters shine. The Weeping Peninsula comes with 4 of them. The Astrologer and the Prophet, which are also present in the Realm of the Grafted King set, and 2 unique to this set, the Bandit and the Hero. Each tarnished comes with a set of weapons that define the combat cards. Changing a weapon changes the combat cards the tarnished can use, like how it works on the Monster Hunter board game. Weapons can be upgraded with runes, enabling more combat cards and effects, but players can completely change which weapons they want to use on each hand. Tarnished also have a personal ability that enhances its playstyle and an armor that grants a passive skill. In combat, a Tarnished can play 3 actions per round, and they have very distinct playstyles. The Astrologer is all about using spells, doing combo attacks one after the other with sorcery like glintstone shards and arcs to maximize damage. The Bandit is about doing at least 1 damage per round to gain a free action and using special abilities only available because of this free action. The Prophet is all about healing and using incantations with the ability to reuse cards from the discard pile from time to time as extra actions. And the Hero is about doing massive damage to enemies, using abilities to do area attacks and repurpose attribute symbols. The combat is different from what you are used to in dungeon crawlers or RPG board games. When players use a card to attack or defend, they draw an attribute card that contains stat symbols. You match the symbols to the powers on the attack cards, doing their effects. Weapons don't have a classical range system. Instead, to attack you must position your character on the same lane as the enemy, attacking the closest to you if the attack is single, or multiple enemies if the attack affects multiple squares on the same lane. Moving forwards and backwards give combat bonuses, like the closest you are to a battle line, the more it's about offensive bonuses, and the further you are from it, it's about defense. Completing scenarios give the players new quests and runes that can be used to buy new gear, improve abilities and buy or upgrade weapons. In case you want to learn how to play it, we have a video that teaches you in 30 minutes every rule about it. You can check the video link in the description or by clicking the link above. I think that's a fast overview of the game, so let's talk about our review of it, starting with the campaign and the scenarios. The campaign's progression makes the player choose between 5 scenario types that do a good job of changing the pacing to avoid a situation of doing the same thing over and over. For example, you can play an exploration scenario for 2 hours, then at the end you want to just go fight some enemies, so you can choose a gauntlet scenario that will take an hour. Then the next day you want to do a quick scenario because you don't have a lot of time, so you decide to do a narrative one and call it a day. The game allows you to do that for most of the time. And the change of pacing is a really good thing. Everything has a nice world-building narrative, so you feel involved into the Elden Ring world, and if you play the video game, you get to relive those moments. Sometimes too much. Occasionally, the narratives will go into very descriptive things that make it drag a little bit, making some of the people that were playing with us lose the focus. Something that in Monster Hunter World was better resolved in my opinion. The narrative was more streamlined, I think. The strongest scenario types in our opinion are the exploration, dungeons and boss fights. And the weakest are the narratives and gauntlet ones. The exploration is amazing. The sense of discovery, opening a tile and checking which locations you have is so nice. You are always busy trying to get new materials, checking uncommon locations, or just trying to reach a combat encounter. And like I mentioned before, these encounters can be fought with a single player while the others are exploring at their own pacing. If they want to join, they can, if they have the right item, but that leaves each player to do as they see fit, and this enhances the gameplay in my opinion. The tiles are faithful to the map of the lands between, and the exploration loop of 3 action works really well independently if you're playing alone or with a full party. Combat is very interesting. When fighting single encounters, it's about strategizing to try and defeat all enemies as fast as you can, and there is a very satisfying feeling when you succeed your strategy. Boss fights are another deal. They hurt a lot, and you must take your time and invest on the long run, avoiding using too many cards or doing harsh moves. So things become very tactical, and one wrong move could get your character defeated. Basically, regular encounters are sprints, where you try to quickly defeat everyone, and boss fights are marathons, where you take your time and strategize. Each player has a lot of control over their attack and defense, since it's card-based, and the player can upgrade their Tarnished with new weapons, weapon upgrades, traits, and Tarnish abilities. Another good addition to the game is the personal quests. There are approximately 15 per character, and they ask the player to complete short objectives, like gather a certain number of materials, or kill a number of enemies in the same fight, and so on. Because they are simple to complete, you have that good feeling of getting new class ability upgrades and extra perks in a constant pacing. And that simplicity in them creates those awesome moments during combat or exploration when one player celebrates they just completed a quest and everyone around wants to know what they will get and what's the objective of the next one. And to finish talking about combat, I like that they decided to use encounter books like Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion to make the encounter boards. The set comes with 4 books, and some encounters are played on one, while others are played by putting together 2 or 4 of these books, creating bigger scenarios. The art on them is okay. I think they could have looked more detailed and unique. Next, let's talk about the game difficulty. I think the difficulty in the game is well balanced. Not too easy, but not too hard. For example, during fights, when your Tarnished is defeated, you spend Stake of Marika cards to come back into it. They are uncommon to get, but still accessible. So don't expect every match to be an unbearable hurdle. At the same time, if you run out of those, you lose and you must replay the scenario. The game also adjusts the difficulty of the encounters and boss fights according to the number of players, so you have the same experience no matter how many players are playing. The campaign has 14 scenarios. Dungeon exploration and gauntlet scenarios should take around 1 to 2 hours each, with a narrative one taking around 30 minutes. I think that's a good amount of gameplay time. And once you finish the Weeping Peninsula campaign, you can continue your progression on the Realm of the Grafted King, and that's good. The replayability is limited with the same group of people you're playing with, in case you decide to do every single scenario and side quests without skipping the optimal path. If you play solo, you get to try different characters, and their playstyles differ one from another. Exploration, boss, and sometimes gauntlet scenarios offer the most replayability because of the random aspect of the exploration discovery, and both boss behaviors and gauntlet enemy composition and marching order. The variety of the enemies on this set is not that great, since they are all misbegotten, except for the Rotten Stray, but each Misbegotten has a distinct attack pattern that is very different from one another. Talking about the enemies and their miniatures, we get great ones, full of details and with base texture. Even the small ones have a lot of details and they faithfully represent their video game counterparts. Steamforged Games really nailed with these miniatures. I particularly like the Winged Misbegotten and the Leonine Misbegotten the most. The wings are so nicely created and the Leonine has amazing scales, hair, cracked sword and the little wings near the tail. The tarnished miniatures also look great and although small are very detailed. They have a nice insert to protect them in the box as well. The other components have very good quality, with cards having a nice artwork, the dice looks great and the books are well illustrated. Talking about the box, I'm surprised that with the amount of content after unboxing everything, the elements fit perfectly in the box and it closes perfectly. But be aware that if you want to sleeve your cards, that might not be the case. The box insert does not fit sleeve, so you're going to have to find your own solution or just let the cards free inside the box. Before we go to the 3 things we liked and disliked about the game, let us know in the comments your thoughts so far about the review. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts and please consider subscribing to Tabletop Duo if you have not done so yet, to receive an update whenever a new video comes out and to help reaching more people and support us creating more content. Now let's get to the 3 things we liked. And disliked about the game. Starting with the things we liked, the first one is the fun and flexibility of choices during exploration scenarios. Having a party that can explore however they want is great, and the feeling of uncovering a new tile, talking to an NPC or just gathering materials or fighting encounters is the biggest highlight for us. The second thing we liked is the combat and the tarnished playstyles. Each character plays very different from the other and their abilities force in a good way players to strategize to trigger them and reap the benefits in battle. And the third thing we liked is the campaign and the freedom to choose between different scenarios. This fits really well with the game altogether with the unique pacing each exploration type brings to the table. A campaign has a good number of scenarios and the world building, settings and challenges will entertain and you don't see the time passing. Now for the 3 things we didn't like, the first one is the fact that the box does not support sleeved cards. This type of game where you have long campaigns and lots of cards to use for the different decks almost certainly will wear off over time, so not having support for them is sad. There is always a way to make those cards fit in the box, but not nicely inside the dividers and sections they have on the insert. The second thing we didn't like is the base player board. It's very thin and it's easy for the cards to start drifting on it or for the board to move around when you're drawing, reshuffling or adding cards to the discard pile. They do have a double-sided one for sale, but you must pay on the side for it. Besides those 2, I don't have any other things we didn't like about it. Overall, I really like this set, and as I do the review, I want to go back and play again some scenarios as I wait for the other sets to arrive. If you're looking for an entry level to the Elden Ring board game, this is a good one to start. If you're interested in the pre-ordering of the game, I have posted a link in the comments, and don't forget to check our how to play guide for Elden Ring in case you are waiting for your copy. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Bye!